Week 5 of the NFL season is here, and Pro Football Ireland is back in the Dragon's Den, or the Den of Studios. Michael McQuaid, Mark Hogan, Jason Hayes. Pro Football Ireland, our flagship NFL podcast. We are live. If you're on podcast format, happy Friday or happy weekend. Feel free to fire in some questions and we will get back to you ASAP. We are presented by 888 Sport, the official betting partner of the NFL on the island of Ireland and in the UK. 18 plus B gamble aware. Mark, it's good to be back again in the crypt. How are you doing, my man? You good?
Our first month done of the season, man. London games are here. We've seen all but one team win a game, all but two lose a game. Everyone knows those highs and the lows. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And you know what? As we go into the podcast, you can actually start to make sense of teams. I hope the Picks League might start to get a bit better for the likes of myself, yourself, and Jason. So, yeah, it's weird. October football came around fast.
I feel like I shouldn't even be on that Picks League. There's certain celebrities, GA players, etc. on it. But if I win it, I feel like it looks bad. So I'm saying nothing on that. Jason, I want to thank you for joining this podcast, even though you should be at Lennox's right now. Going by Conor Mangan anyway. I don't know what's going on down there in Cork. How are you doing? Thanks for stepping aside last week as we joined a reef. You were sorely missed.
Yeah, well, I was happy out in Tuscany. I listened back to the podcast and it was great stuff, lads. A bit too good. A reef, you know. He's I'm kind of worried for my job there for a while. It's a tough act to follow with him stepping in last week, but no, it's good stuff. And Lennox it's chaos in Cork. Getting pictures of the queues all evening. I'd say I need to start queuing now if I want to have a chance of getting it before Sunday.
If you think it's bad down there, they still have the bunting up in Armagh. It's October. Let it go, lads. You've won it. I'm happy for you.
Go back to this Chippers, Jason. What's the story? It's a Chippers that's closing down. Is that it?
Jackie Lennox, yeah. It's been going for, I want to say, about 73 years, I think. You won't find a better breast in a bun in Cork. Potato pies, you know, just old school.
You won't find a better
chipper.
what?
Breast in a bun. Is that not a term up north? No,
that's definitely not a term up north.
Is that a Cork? That's only a Cork term, actually.
Jeez, that's burger. Not a term up north, boys. I tell you,
it's a chicken burger. Yeah. That's a Mark. Do you know that? Breast in a bun.
No, never heard of it. We'll have to bring that one day to FA Obada the next day or something.
I text FA and we are going to talk about the Commanders in a bit. Text FA on Tuesday morning. I was like, Jesus, man, you boys are some hell of a team here, lads. He text back like a chicken emoji. I think he meant like the chicken fillet roll. So I'm going to say that and just leave that and say nothing else. Breast of a bun. I've never ever heard of that up here.
But I a bun.
Okay. Mark, have you recovered from that Steelers watch party on Sunday night? There was rumours going around that you were having a good time.
Great event. No, we're so lucky that we have that. We're so lucky. Obviously, the boys joined us on the podcast. It was cool too. We saw today they gave 3,500. Did the Steelers to American Football Ireland for their support. Hopefully, they can throw some of that our way maybe sometime soon. But no, 30. And do you know what? It was fantastic seeing so many Pro Football Ireland members at it as well. Word has gotten out that you don't have to be just a Steelers fan. Of course, it's best when you're a Steelers fan, except now there is the curse, of course, the Crow Park curse. They can't seem to get a win when we all meet up there.
Do drop a comment if you are watching live, folks. If you're on the podcast, we really appreciate you. Shout out to Jer who's watching live. Get some questions in and we'll try and keep these two celebrities here at the end to answer some questions. It is week 5 of the season. We are getting there and it's hard to believe we are now coming into London. The Detroit Lions, the Philadelphia Eagles, the LA Chargers and the Tennessee Titans all have bye weeks this week, and the first London game is this Sunday between the Jets and the Vikings. That game is at 2:30 p.m. according to Mark Hogan, pre-live, and it's on Virgin Media 2 and ITV1 if you're in Northern Ireland. But yeah, it's hard to believe it's week 5. It just feels like, you know, we're at that point of the year now where it's starting to sort of fluctuate in. We're getting a little bit comfy. Who knows if we'll have some special guests join us tonight. Maybe McAfee might join us again. I don't know. Have I asked him to come on, Mark? Yes. We'll see. Are we set up for a 4-man stream? No, we're not. This graphic on the stream is not
you'll
set
be gone
up.
again, all right?
But we will worry about that when it comes to it. It is week 5 of the season. And we're going to try and get to a point where we start to make commitments. Mark, I have to give you a massive shout out here. Some of these topics this week are like top banana. What narrative should we settle on through 5 or 4 weeks, I guess, of actions? 5 weeks by the time this podcast is out, with Thursday Night Football going out. And as Mark starts to pixelate on my live stream, I can only hope and pray that he's going to talk about who he's going to commit to right now.
I actually just came back from Chicago, according to the VPN that I had active, and I was worried that you'd leave me for a second, but it's
Turn
back
your VPN off on this.
before the
Jesus, what are you
podcast
at?
starts. I was like, yeah, this is gonna mess up. Yeah, like I said, I think we can start to settle in on some of these narratives. Maybe mine was one that I was rocking with before the season began, but I did actually put a strike through. I had in my notes when I decide on this that Chicago has a serious problem with Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator. I got rid of the serious when I started to look into it a bit more. And there's 2 parts to it, really. I don't want to be dumping on Caleb Williams. In fact, I think Caleb Williams has shown exactly what you need through the first 4 weeks of a rookie campaign. His, I suppose, disciples, the Chicago faithful, wasn't happy with his progress through the first few weeks. But I think last week in particular, we saw he was doing the boring and the simple things well. Taking checkdowns, interestingly, which was something that was actually given against him in the pre-draft process, that he only wanted to go for those big shots. But I think that even when you see him against pressure now, he's dealing with it really well, going through his checkdowns and stuff like that. I think is all positive, and talked about in great detail in Chicago this week was an attempt at a touchdown just before the end of the first half on the weekend, when he actually misses. And this is talking about the chemistry that, you know, builds as we go here in the season with his receivers. DJ Moore, he's after beating a linebacker and he cuts out, whereas Caleb Williams cuts in, or sorry, throws the ball in, and it sails out the back of the end zone. There's frustration there, is asked about afterwards. And it's just them getting onto the same page. Those things are fine. They come out and he throws a lovely ball to start the second half, and scores the touchdown to DJ Moore. So I think all those things are great, and it's the progress we need to see. But Shane Waldron is not giving Caleb Williams the answers, and I think there is a limit on the offense that he can bring. So whereas Caleb Williams and DJ Moore might start to play better and better, what are we going to do with Shane Waldron? Like, he can only bring them so far, and it's like, is he ultimately going to be gotten rid of at the end of the season? And while we see Jaden Daniels go off and have a fine time in Washington, we're going to compare them. We know that we are. And then maybe a year down the road, Caleb Williams is in a new offense. I think it's a problem from the moment he was brought into the building. And we were in Vegas, and Jackson Smith and Jigba from Seattle was asked, what's the story with that guy, Shane Waldron, your former offensive coordinator? And him not knowing that he was live was like, do you remember that? So I think that that's just going to linger on and on and on.
What's your thoughts on that, Jason? Mark, can you come out and come back in again? I love you. I can hear you, but you look like you're in Mendoran in 1960. Just Mr. I was on a VPN. Go for it, Jason. What's your thoughts on the situation in Chicago?
I agree with Mark. Firstly, that Caleb Williams he's not been the shining star that Jaden Daniels has been through 4 weeks, but I think he's done a lot of good stuff. Unspectacular, probably not what people expected when he was coming out of college, but I think he's done what they've asked him. And the crucial thing is, when the defense is playing that well, he's done enough to win some of these games, despite not tearing apart these opposition defenses. Some of the weird kind of stories that were coming out in that was when you have players reportedly talking to Shane Waldron and telling him to, reassuring him. It's kind of a strange dynamic where you have the players talking about the coach and his performance rather than the coach talking about the player's performance. Just indicates that there perhaps isn't a whole massive amount of respect there, or authority there, maybe. So different coaching approach from Shane Waldron. I think it's probably too quick to put his job on the line after 4 weeks, because he did do a lot of good things in Seattle. So I suppose some of these struggles I'd be surprised with. That Jackson Smith in Jigba quote maybe makes a bit more sense now. But I think it's one to monitor. They're doing enough to win right now. I can guarantee you, if the defense wasn't pulling their weight and there was a few more losses racking up, then the heat will be even stronger. But they're kind of getting away with it for now because of the way they're performing as a whole team.
For now would be the key word. A couple of weeks out from London as well, which could be a monumental game against the Jaguars. Going by some people, you can think Bill Belichick's going to be in there for Jacksonville by the end of next week. We'll see what happens there. Mark, it has worked, and your private chat is going very well. You look so much better now. Jason, just in terms of your own commitment, what's your thoughts going 4 weeks in?
Yeah, so not really a team specific one for me. Kind of building slightly on a conversation we had a couple of weeks ago about the resurgence of some quarterbacks like your Baker Mayfields, Sam Darnold, even Andy Dalton more recently. And I think the new trend that we're seeing starting to emerge, and it's one that I'm fully getting behind, is veteran quarterbacks are proving more valuable again. Because it seems like we had a decade straight from the moment Russell Wilson was drafted, where the talk has been you need to get a quarterback on a rookie contract and you need to make a run at the Super Bowl when they're on that rookie contract. And it even got so extreme that we're talking about some analysts, it hasn't really happened yet, but some analysts saying they want to see teams fully embrace that approach and move on from a quarterback before their contract every time and just keep redrafting. But what we've seen over the last couple of years is that defenses are getting more sophisticated in the NFL again. They're getting harder to read. Blitzes are getting more complex. And quarterbacks are having a much tougher time adjusting to it. And in that situation, experience counts. And that's why you're seeing a guy like Andy Dalton come in and make what Bryce Young was doing look like an embarrassment for the Panthers offense, because he's been there, done that, seen a lot of these coverages, knows a lot more about this kind of situational football and able to read a defense. And I think that's ultimately why we're seeing some of these older guys, not even older, but some of these guys who've been in the league 5-6 years, they've seen more things than these rookies. It's not as simple as relying on athletic ability anymore, with these defenses becoming more complex. And that's a trend I'm enjoying, to be honest, because I think there's a few years there where offense was dominant around the league, too dominant, records getting broken every year, maybe a bit too easy. And defenses are having their day right now. And the way that's manifesting itself is through quarterback performances on the other side.
It's a really interesting point. I think, boys, scrap the rest of the podcast because we can go deep on this one. Because as you're saying it there, Jason, I'm like, I 100% agree. But then I start running team by team through it. I'm like, yeah, look, Joe Flacco, when he goes in for Anthony Richardson, I said confidence in the Colts the other day. Like you said, Andy Dalton. But then look at Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson. Look at Jacoby Brissett in New England. Sam Darnold has worked out, but the plan was to go with JJ McCarthy. I think it's actually a real nuanced conversation that you can have with it. But absolutely, right now, those Andy Daltons who call it being humbled and, taking the back seat, and your Joe Flacco's that weren't causing problems in the background, essentially, and were willing to take a backup job. Those guys were excellent. But then it's like, we've also seen this year that those have been the best backups, and some teams have just not been able to get their hands on one of those guys. And then when you're Jordan Love's go down, you're scrambling to get Malik Willis on your team and stuff. So I think you're really onto something there, but it seems to work out for some teams and not for others.
Yeah, it's definitely not a one rule catch all. You've got your CJ Strouds, your Jaden Daniels this year. There are guys, of course, there are rookies where you're going to come in, Brock Purdy, and dominate from day one. But I just think it's becoming less common. And these middling veteran quarterbacks, where normally a team's attitude is, if he's not a star, if he's not a franchise quarterback within 4 or 5 years, I'm moving on and I'm going to try and draft a new guy. Some of these guys are carving out very, very solid roles for themselves. Geno Smith, Derek Carr, all the guys we kind of discussed last week. I think it's definitely not one glove fits all. What's that phrase? You know what I'm going for. But
breast in the bun. No.
Breast in the bun. That's it.
Hashtag breast in the bun. Hashtag Pro Football Ireland. Do keep your questions coming in live. I think just to add on that, because I think you've both sort of summed it up brilliantly there. It adds to the whole lack of inevitability about the league. If you look at some of the games over the last 2 weeks, it's genuinely, I think for the first time in a long time, it is more difficult to call some of these games, and just where I think for the neutral that makes the league better. I've certainly found it very difficult, and I've just realised live right now that I have not made my picks this week at 9:18 p.m. on the cusp of week 5. But it does make it more difficult to call, and I guess when it does go deeper down the stretch and it does become more obvious, it gets a little bit easier. But certainly when you've got guys that aren't expected to do well once they're dropped or once they're put somewhere else, I think it's great to see. It really shows you that anything is possible with certain players. If you told me we'd be going to London on Sunday to see Sam Darnold play 6 months ago, I wouldn't have been up.
Sam Darnold leading a 4-0 team.
Now let me just I'll just reiterate to the NFL who may be watching this. I'd go watch 2 Canadian football teams play in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Sunday at half 2. I'm happy enough. I'm just saying, what we originally expected to now. What we originally expected to now is completely different. Kirk Cousins was still with the Vikings when they were announced as a home team in January. So it is different. But I like the setup we have on Sunday. I love the fact that guys like Sam Darnold, guys like, Geno Smith, I never thought he would get another run in the league before he did. So it gives guys like Daniel Jones hope maybe next year or the year after, who knows. Then again, look at Drew Lock. And we'll maybe come back to that in a bit. I've got a pretty boring commitment. I genuinely, it's funny because we do talk on Monday and Tuesday, but we don't really talk, I guess, in the group situation sense. For both you lads, and I'm not sure anybody listening or watching this thinks, how do you lads consume Monday Night Football on Tuesday, especially when it's a double header?
No, the double. I am watching out for what I need to watch out for when it comes to some of those games, because it's Monday is great to watch back the games, but then Tuesday is when I start to. I'm very lucky studying tape, or studying tape. I sound like such a dick saying that, to be perfectly honest. But it's I love. I hate that. You sound like such a. You do though, right? So you say, but I'm buckled into watching for certain things on Tuesday and Wednesday that I don't go back and watch the full game.
Jason, what do you watch Monday night? Does it depend on the game? Do you try and replay it as much as possible the next morning?
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping. I've no employer watching this right now live, but Tuesday morning. I tend to game in 40. That's my go-to for some of these things. Cut the nonsense.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess for a lot of the Americans over the last 2 weeks, the great thing has been that Monday night doubleheader. But for a lot of Europeans, it's been more difficult to actually catch up in certain games. So let me be very clear here right now. I'm not going to talk about the Titans or Dolphins. I'm not committing to any of them tonight. That game Monday night was a disgrace. But I would highly recommend, if you're listening to this on the Friday morning or watching live, go, and if you haven't seen the whole thing, go and watch back every offensive play from the Detroit Lions on Monday night and tell me that Ben Johnson won't be a head coach in the league next year. I don't care what window is open, what situation Detroit's in, if he wanted to stay because he feels like he's close, or his relationship with the players, or the respect that Jared Goff in the locker room and Dan Campbell has for him. This man's gone next year. The ironic thing is, on Monday night, I have it written down here, he had 42 points, but at one point in the game, 743 passing yards over 4 games, 78% completion rate. But there was a point mid-third quarter on Monday night where they pulled away, and the way in which Jared Goff and the offense is playing, to me, is just unreal. When you've got guys like David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs in that backfield, they can just take Detroit to a new level. But ironically for Ben Johnson on the offense, in week 2 against the Bucks, they only had 16 points on 10 out of 11 drives in Bucks territory. So he's still not the finished product. But I'm going to come out here and say it. I think if I'm Ben Johnson, if I'm Dan Campbell, if I'm the Detroit Lions, I go out now and I finish the story. I get the final piece of the jigsaw. And for people watching this video right now, the final piece of the jigsaw is right under me. It's Devontae Adams. F it. Go and win a Super Bowl. Go and load up on a guy who's basically in his final year of his contract, and go and completely fill out this Detroit Lions offense. The first thing I thought, boys, from Ben Johnson's schemes, the Philly special play that they had as well towards the end on Monday or Tuesday morning when I watched that game, lads, is they're going to the Super Bowl. They are, for me, They are the best team in the NFC at the minute by a decent stretch. And more importantly for a neutral, lads, that offense is so fun to watch. I guess the big question mark on Jason is, can a guy like Ben Johnson keep that up over the next 12 weeks going into a postseason stretch? That's the big question for me.
He's done it for long enough now. I mean, he's long proven. I think it's fair to say he'd have a head coaching job already if a team that of his choosing came along in the off season.
Do you feel like it's been up a gear though, Jason, in the sense of from last year? It feels to me like that. Like Jared Goff looks even better than he did last year from that game Monday night, and maybe that is the Seahawks defense, but they look a lot better in my opinion.
I suppose there is the unknown of, is it a one season wonder kind of thing? But he's picked up right where he left off, and I think there might be a few bigger franchises making more cutthroat decisions at their coaching position if Ben Johnson is available this offseason. Dallas Cowboys throwing it out there. I don't know. But he will wait for the right opportunity because he'll have his pick of anyone in the league.
Could be a few coaching jobs up by the end of the season. There always will be. Mark, you're sitting there smiling. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say about this.
No, to say about Jason's point, yes, like the Raiders seem to have an open head coaching job about to come through at any moment. No, I was actually just reading that you had, I didn't pick up what you were saying when you introduced the topic or the whole podcast and saying we'll be through 5 weeks now in Thursday Night Football. The last It's Time to Commit says, what are we committing on through 5 weeks in the NFL? That was clearly a typo. That should say through 4 weeks, and I brought attention to it now. That's what put the smile on my face, Michael.
Look, if that's the only issue tonight, when somebody had a VPN on at the start of a live broadcast in 4K, I'm only messing, lad. Shout out to StreamYard, going to 4K. Our bill will double at the end of the year, and that's an issue. But right now, we're rolling, boys, to at least week 13 or so. So everyone looking really nice tonight. Yeah, look, this is what it is. Do let us know in the comments, folks, what you are enjoying or committing to a few weeks in. The great thing about having the league back, lads, is that these opinions, these thought processes come out, and certainly it's something that we're going to have a good chat with when we get to our live events at the end of the season. We've obviously got one in Tyrone, which is sold out. We've got about 31 tickets left in Dublin. We have not announced the guests yet. Mark, do you want to announce any guests? Have you been doing any market research or any field work on this week?
No.
Okay. Jason, have you any research? Any former Cardinal players or any help for this brand?
Maybe we can talk to the owners of Jackie Lennox about what a wonderful career they had.
There is a dog howling opposite me, in case you can hear that.
I was wondering. I thought I heard something, yeah.
Can you hear that? Yeah. Okay. Well, that could be Doug Peterson by... No, I wish. That could be Doug Peterson by Sunday evening, and we'll talk about that in a bit. This is our Week 5 podcast rolling on the Pro Football Ireland podcast network. This is Pro Football Ireland coming into Week 5 of the NFL season, presented by 888 Sport, the official betting partner of the NFL in Ireland and the UK. 18 plus B gamble aware, made to play. Michael, Mark, Agus, Jason, Clark galore, boys. Let's have a bit of crack here. Next topic, coming into Week 5, the Kansas City Chiefs. Mark, if I'm in belief of this being correct, they play Monday Night Football. Yeah, this week?
Yeah, against the Saints, isn't it?
I like it. I like it a lot. What do we make of Kansas City? And again, this is one of Hoagie's perfectionist Tuesday morning topic tweets. 4-0. They're scraping out wins. Is it foolish for fans or for analysts? Are we fans or analysts, or are we like sort of in between? I don't know, but is it foolish for us to doubt them, Mark, do you think?
Oh, complete novices of what we are. We don't know what we're talking about half the time, or certainly that'll be my excuse when we get through this, because we've done it before, boys. Like, I feel like if we went back and looked at our notes from this time last year, the question remained the same. Like, how useless, when are they going to get found out and all this stuff? To me, the point of no return is Rashee Rice going out. That's a massive blow. You're already down Hollywood Brown. Isaiah Pacheco hasn't been in the lineup. Travis Kelce, obviously, through the first 3 weeks was not there, and he came into the game last week, but that's because the opposition didn't know, the LA Chargers didn't know to prepare for Travis Kelce. But now it's Travis Kelce show. Insert what I said about Cooper Kupp when the LA Rams had all their injuries a few weeks ago here. All the targets will have to seemingly go through him because I suppose even at running back, like with Isaiah Pacheco out, you're turning back the clock. It says in 18 Kareem Hunt's in there because Carson Steele, like obviously it's he's gone to the back of the depth chart after the second fumble. I don't know, like I have plenty to say on this, but I think we all have to start at that point. Like Rashee Rice was the savior last year. Without him, they're in a really tough position. And also, actually, can I say, we can admit that Patrick Mahomes isn't lights out right now. Like that's fine. Like he's the best player in the league, but he's not playing the best right now, right?
But isn't that the whole
average depth of target for Mahomes is 5.4 yards, lowest in the league. I mean, that's just not what we're used to seeing from Mahomes, is it?
His quarterback rating is 57.6 through 4 weeks. 57.6 quarterback rating through 4 weeks. But Jason, just not to take away from you, and feel free to pop in here. You know, we look at different sports, like for example soccer or football. When a team like Man City or a team like Liverpool grind out a 1-0 result and they don't play well, it's always it's the hallmark of a good team or the hallmark of champions. Nobody's gonna care. Like no one's thinking back to week 2 right now. They're 4-0. You know, that's all that matters. Or as my wife called it the other day, 4-0. So, go on, shout out to her.
But, I don't know. The thing is now though, like last year, at least Rashee Rice was on the roster, and don't get me wrong, Xavier Worthy, we don't know what's to come for him. But if you look at the top 5 receivers on the field per snaps last week, it's Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Juju, and Noah Gray. Juju didn't get a target. Sky Moore didn't get a target. So like you're telling me Justin Watson, who was obviously goes into the season your number 4 receiver, now you're number 2. Xavier Worthy has gotten splash plays here and there, but he hasn't shown any kind of consistency. Again, Rashee Rice after week 11 last year was there, but we still have 6 weeks to go until you're hitting that turning point. So I just think it's an awful lot of work, and work last year. I mean, that's why it's foolish to doubt them. But Jesus, if they're able to do it twice in a row, and Andy Reid, like it's not like Andy Reid has been scheming up massive plays, and maybe it's just that he has his handful just trying to get into guys' hands full stop. But I just think it's a very difficult position.
Leo Chenal as well as a guy that's really breaking out on the rush defense for the Chiefs, and it's always Jason, these guys that pop up, guys that maybe some people don't hear of for the Chiefs. That it's like you've got a hole in the wall, and Andy Reid just gets a bit of cement out. Don't put cement in walls, and just covers over the cracks and always seems to find a way. I guess going on what Mark said, it's really not going to matter if they get to the end of December. Mahomes is starting to play lights out. Like I said, I read something this week about Travis Kelce. He'll still make big plays when he has to. He's being double teamed a lot so far this season, which I think is a big issue, obviously. Anytime for any player, but they really are trying to take him out of the game. And not to use this in every topic tonight, Jason, but it's another team where you're looking at a guy like Davante Adams. Can you afford him? Can you insert him in for a short-term deal? It's really interesting, man.
That's exactly my thought. When you mentioned Adams for the Lions, I was thinking the Chiefs. Because Niners. It's you might just think because they've won the Super Bowl the last 2 years that they won't make these kind of maybe desperate-looking moves. But at the end of the day, if you have a chance at another Super Bowl, they should go all in. DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper. There's a few guys out there that I'm sure GMs will be answering their phone for, and that's what I'd be doing right now if I was the Chiefs. Rashee Rice, he's on IR. He was just placed on IR today, but I don't think he's officially out for the year yet. I think they're still trying to determine that.
Minimum 4 games, so 4 games minimum. But so it'll be at least week 9.
The swelling go down this side, and they'll be able to reassess.
A wee bit of cotton wool, a wee bit of holy water, the 9-day prayer. Look, it's fixed all of us. I don't know, boys.
But if Rice is out, we don't know if he's coming back. Pacheco is out. They're a banged up team right now, but the positive is that they've started 4-0. They've built a cushion. They can afford to be a banged up team for these next few weeks. It doesn't matter. They don't need to play lights out right now. They've somehow won these first 4 games by the slimmest of margins at times. But they're in a great position. And if they can get healthy in the latter half of the season, which is entirely possible, Rice will be a big loss. then I'm not going to panic. I feel like we should just lock the Chiefs away and not say anything foolish at this stage of the year, because they'll just prove us wrong one way or the other. But the whole league is down as well. You have to remember that offense is down around the league. So when we're looking at the Chiefs, we just have them higher standards in our minds when we're looking at them underperforming offense. If you look at it in the context of the NFL, it's not abnormal. I think they're definitely top 15 in the offense. I don't think they're top 10. But if they're playing bad and they're in that position, and Spagnuolo is still running a very effective defense, which is obviously very important, I'm not panicking about the Chiefs. They also have the third worst turnover differential in the league right now. So to be 4-0 with the third worst turnover differential is obviously a good thing, because you think the pendulum will swing back at some point or another. And they should be able to win a few more games comfortably, because that team must be tired right now to grind out slim margin of victories like that week in, week out. It takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, you nailed it there, Jason. Defense is balling. Just because it's not a top 5, I don't see it being a top 10 offense at the end of the year, but I suppose we just hold them such high margins. I've been kind of thinking, I'd love to see, Dallas has an awful defense, but it's I'd love to see Andy Reid switch places with Mike McCarthy and see how they get on, because Dak, a capable quarterback, and then you have one singular weapon in CeeDee Lamb. Like you're saying, Michael, that we've seen Travis Kelce get double coverage. He is older now. That obviously does make a difference, and he's going to see triple coverage.
You could jump in at running back for the Cowboys at the minute.
Honest to God, they have no one there. So Andy Reid just hasn't right now, and we know he likes to get into his book there and just figure out how to get guys open and stuff. We haven't seen that yet. Maybe we will. So yeah, it's just we always put it down to Patrick Mahomes. It completely discredits Andy Reid and what he's able to do. So do we worry about them? No. Like Jason said, the defense there is fantastic. I suppose we love seeing them high powered. It's entertaining.
I don't want to get in trouble with Andy Reid's wife again, so I'll be quite quick on this. Monday Night Football. Does anyone know if that game is in New Orleans? I think it's in Arrowhead, isn't it? Yeah, I feel like it's in Arrowhead.
I'm not entirely sure. You can look it up there. While I would
very
say
very quick 2-second Google.
It's in Arrowhead. Yes,
it's in it's in Arrowhead, and
it'll be interesting to see how the run defense holds up against a team that's run the ball really well with Alvin Kamara. See how and that offensive line, see how it holds up. So it's that is interesting. Does that put another seed of doubt? Because the defense, it's just the run game has been what's kind of killed them other years, and it seems to have been improved this year. So let's see if that's a trend that's going to continue.
The Chiefs are actually going up against a guy that is first in the league in yards per route run versus press coverage. Thank you, NFL Pro dodgy VPN login this week for that. Rashid Shaheed. No defense has used more pass coverage more than the Kansas City Chiefs. I have to say, I got up the road last Sunday, and actually shout out to the lads on TalkSport. Listened when I got back up to God's country. Listened to the second and third quarter of the Chiefs game on TalkSport, but I actually listened and watched probably the last 12-13 minutes of that game in SoFi against the Chargers. I think for them to go out there and get that win and grind out a victory against that Chargers team, it just shows you they can grind out the results and they can still defeat teams regardless of the situations that they're in.
And look at Steve Spagnuolo going against the quarterback and Derek Carr that he was very familiar with when obviously Derek Carr was playing the Chiefs twice a year with the Raiders. So, he'll know how to get under the skin too. So maybe, that nullifies, and all that experience on that coaching team, it all adds up and seems to pay dividend every single week.
You are listening to Pro Football Ireland. We'll be back on the other side of this end of this audio format reel. I don't know. See you soon. Week 5 of the NFL season in Pro Football Ireland, presented by 888 Sport, the official betting partner of the NFL in Ireland and the UK. 18+. Be gamble aware. Made to play. I tell you who's made to play this week, boys. Us. Week 5, London, baby. Has everybody packed their... We're not talking about the London game. I'm just going to talk about it generally. Has everybody packed the bags? Mark, you going to bring back a whole thing of Oreo Coke cans? Jason, are you planning to smuggle anything back to the People's Republic?
I've packed for five nights in case. I went for no nights the last day and it ended up being 5. So back to the scene of the crime this week, Michael.
Do you know what's really hard to get up north from Brexit? Really hard. In certain areas. Maybe Dungannon Dungannon a bit of a hard place to get it. I don't know. Shout out to Dungannon up against Trillick tomorrow night. Semi-final. Tyrone Championship. I'll see you there, folks. Shout out to Michael Devlin. Big fan of the NFL. Watching, listening to this. Good man. Any free parking's appreciated. Give me a shout. Walker's Crisps. Very hard to get up north now. Don't know what's going on. And I know people in Belfast and like Lisburn and Antrim are like, you mean you can't get Walker's Crisps? I can't get it in Dungannon since Brexit. Don't know what it is. And also, the chocolate up here very quickly changed to the Sovereign Dairy Milk after Brexit. I'm going to leave it at that. It's got nothing to do with football. But yeah, I'm sure we'll smuggle a few things home. You boys haven't got Greg's. We've got Greg's like in Belfast, but not anywhere up around there. So Greg's.
If you've just tuned into the podcast, this is Pro Football Ireland that we're doing right here, right?
And we're going to England this weekend. Let's just say it now, and we will move on after 30 seconds and talk about the Commanders. Food's not as good over there, lads. Maybe I'm just very lucky with my food, and I've got a great person at home making food, and I can make food myself. Like, that dinner better deliver on Sunday, Mark. Better deliver, yeah. Mark doesn't want to eat because he wants to go out and talk to random fans, like our good friend Jay Lawrence, and we will do that. Jason, anything if you could smuggle one thing back into Ireland, what would it be on Sunday? A Jets win?
Oh God, it's a tough question. Duty free, vodka. I don't know.
I look forward to Stansted and seeing Aaron Rodgers be wheeled through Stansted security. Must buy Fast Track actually. Now I'm on that. Good reminder. Commanders. It's funny because when we had F.A. Obata over here, you look disgusted, Mark, in my intro to that podcast. Just a heads up, but it's all good. We had F.A. over here, and if you had told me then in June that the Commanders would have had the start to the season that we have seen, I don't think anybody would have believed you. Even though on the first Sunday of the season, I did put a quote out saying that I thought that the Commanders would get to the playoff. That's the whole, and I'm just going to keep that very low key for a few more weeks until we get to that point, because the replies on it are amazing. Mark, I watched back Jayden Daniels play, but more specifically the general offenses play on Monday evening. How impressed are you with the Commanders through 4 weeks so far?
Massive, I suppose. Yeah, like you could say, I don't want to be unfair on them. I am extremely positive. Jayden Daniels has thrown more. He's had more more scoring drives
than incompletions, which is just, I think he's 22 scoring
ridiculous.
drives and he has 18 incompletions.
23 scoring drives, Jason, 19 incomplete passes. Even more impressive is they had a punt, and he had his first interception last week of his career. That was the first punt, and obviously it was the first interception. That was the first punt they had since week 1. Like, if you're a Washington fan, it is extremely good and fun to watch this team right now, because they keep scoring. That's what you want to watch. I think the problem with them is they've played very poor defenses, very poor, so much so that 3 of the 4 teams that they've played against are 28th or worse in defensive success rate. The best team they've played defensively has been the New York Giants. I suppose, though, the positive is they get to play the New York Giants again, and Philadelphia and Dallas don't have the greatest defenses right now. So I'm very high on them, but yeah, that said, they haven't playing either defenses.
Jason, through 4 weeks, Jayden Daniels, 82.1 completion percentage, the highest for a rookie in NFL history for the first 4 games of the season, even higher than a guy called Tom Brady. Only 1 pick, a passer rating of 107.4, longest pass of 55 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. It is genuinely fresh and brilliant to see a rookie QB be able to run and not get injured. I'm looking at you, Anthony Richardson. But I think the biggest thing for me now is we go into week 5 and we've seen what Jayden Daniels lads can do so far, and some of the records that he has broken so far. Like, he's the first quarterback in NFL history with back-to-back games at 85% completion or higher, and he has the NFL record for a completion percentage in any 4-game span since the year 1950. He in the next few weeks could break the rookie record for passing efficiency overall, and he could also break the rookie record for completion percentage overall. We don't. Our betting partner with 888 does not have the odds for rookie of the season, but at the moment he is the clear favourite. He's a breath of fresh air in this league. I just hope, for the sake of neutrals, to be brutally honest, for the sake of Washington as well, and just for his own sake, that he keeps this up because he looks so good. Did anybody see Joe Sheehan pre-draft where he has his family in his office and his son's like sitting on the sofa like this, like he gets football? He's like, so Joe Sheehan's like, you can pick one person, son, who would it be? And he goes, Jaden Daniels, Dad, you have one shot. You've one shot. You want to win, you go for Jaden Daniels. Did the Giants pick Jaden Daniels, lads? No. And that's all I have to say. I think they're going to win I think they're going to win the NFC East, lads. Just going to put it out there and say it. And that's a big statement to make 5 weeks in, but I'm going to say it. Mark, feel free to slate me on everything I've said there.
No, you're not incorrect. We put up a poll on Instagram the other day, and I think it was 65% of people thought that they would at least be a playoff team. 20-something% thought they'd win the division, and then there was 8% that thought they could be the number one seed, because they do have a schedule that lines up pretty favorably for them. I mean, they have the Ravens, I know, in there. We'll see what the likes of the Eagles are later down the road, but that's why we're talking about them, because they're lights out and the schedule allows or sets up. I suppose the one Achilles heel that I would say that they potentially have could be on the defense. They went out this offseason and they did bulk up, especially in the front seven. I mean, I have a number there. 6 of the 11 starters were brought in during the offseason because last year they were so poor. Some of it's worked out to the first few weeks. All they have to do really is be strong enough up in the front 4/front 7 to help out, and then the DBs just have to do enough. We'll see if that obviously works out for them when they go against, like, I suppose, stronger pass teams or whatever. But even the other day, like, Kyler Murray isn't an easy quarterback to sack. They got to him 4 times. Like, is that an outlier of a game or not? We'll see going forward. But yeah, it's Dan Quinn obviously is a strong defensive-minded coach, so I mean that helps them.
Browns this week, and then they also have the Ravens in 2 weeks. Did it surprise you, Jason, that how easy they carved through the Cardinals, especially when the Cardinals were so impressive the week before?
Well, I guess it shouldn't have surprised me. It frustrated me. I don't think it surprised me. With the stats that you read out, they're breaking records. Can I just say as well, Tressway, that's a Jacob Bresnahan lookalike in my books.
I have to say, I listened to him and Connor on the way to work on Monday morning. I don't know what Jacob's taken before those podcasts, but that guy would literally talk up a cup of tea. I'm enjoying it. Shout out to Jacob. Go on ahead, Jason. Sorry.
He's great. He's an encyclopedia, as we discovered on Radio Row. I think they're doing. Firstly, I just quickly to add on defense, Mark, you said 6 of the 11 starters were brought in. Could look at that as a positive as well. You know, if they're 3-1 right now.
No, I mean it. I mean it as a positive.
They haven't had a chance to fully gel yet, so you'd hope they keep improving as they go. Love what they're doing on offense. Nothing groundbreaking. They're just putting themselves in good positions. During the game on Sunday, they went, I think it was 22 straight plays of positive yardage, just avoiding negative plays, and putting themselves in third and manageable consistently. They aren't asking Jaden Daniels to carry the team on his back. He's making a lot of quick throws, good decisions, using his legs where he needs to, but he's not putting himself in harm's way. Running the ball very well, and for the most part, it's just a smart, efficient offense, and what you want to see, especially when you have a rookie quarterback back there, and he's doing a fantastic job running it. To put a slight dampener on it, my only concern and my biggest concern is we've seen Cliff Kingsbury time and time again. We've all seen the charts. He has these fantastic first half of the season. He did it countless times in Arizona, countless times through college, and time again, the offense falls off a cliff. There you go. How about that one? In the second half of the season, and I haven't seen any evidence in his career to date to suggest that won't happen again. Hopefully, a guy like Jaden Daniels with the ball he's playing, maybe Cliff has learned. Maybe he will adjust and be able to keep going. But he's been found out in the past, and I'm not going to completely buy in on Washington until I see them actually perform in November and December, no matter what they show me over these next 2 months, unfortunately, and as harsh as that might sound.
Shout out on that note, shout out to Effie. And I hope you're doing well, my man. I think he's right behind me, actually. Oh, there he is. There he is. Shout out to Effie. Why didn't we get a jersey? The man could win a Super Bowl now. It's mad. Anyway. Say no more. Do get your questions in first, or get your questions in for the end of this podcast. We'll put them in at the end. Some really cool questions coming in. Shout out to Gary, who sent a really good message. Thank you, Gary. I'll get you back for that. And for people listening, we have got a Super Bowl preview night on the 31st of January in Dublin. Guests are TBC, Kieran McGeeney. I think Mark might get him in. I'm joking. And then we've also got a Black Friday watch party for there's a lot of Tyrone comments here tonight. That's why I'm saying this. Black Friday watch party in the Moy in County Tyrone. It's on the border with Armagh. Okay. We're going to London this weekend, and the Jets Vikings is at 2:30 p.m. this Sunday from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. As I said at the start of the broadcast, it is on Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What am I talking about? It's on Virgin Media 2, and it's on ITV1 in Northern Ireland. And if you're going, please do look out for some Buck Egypts with Rode microphones, Mark. It's very, very exciting. We are looking forward to getting over. It seems to be a really big week. We've got Rich Eyes and Kurt Warner on the call as well, NFL Network. I'm hoping that we can find these lads this time. Can never find them in the media section of Tottenham. First off, really looking forward to getting over again. Does it hit you, Mark, that the NFL is back when we have the chance to go and experience what we see? And secondly, should this be the last year that we have to get in the plane to go to an NFL game? I feel it should be. Wow. And let me just say this. An article is on the way about that very soon. Either this week or next week. And will that get me in trouble? Probably, but I mean, what have I got to lose, man?
I mean, the clicks in those seem to be going up and up and up as people sense that it's getting closer and closer. Yeah, you never know who we might meet over there over the next few weeks, so we might be able to put it to them. But no,
do you have a bodyguard for Dublin Airport? Have you somebody walking through duty free with you just in case you get mauled?
No, because when I go through with you, normally the attention all is attracted in your way. So yeah, actually, I will miss having your presence. You're not going into Dublin this week, unfortunately.
I will say to both, because we're actually, funny enough, so I'm Belfast International, Mark is Dublin, and Jason is Cork. I'm asking all of you boys and everyone listening and watching this, get some photos in the airport. Because Belfast last year was popping full of different fans with the really awkward silence 7 in the morning in an EasyJet queue where everyone's looking at each other like, lads, we're all going to the game. Somebody just talk. But I'm standing there like, oh Jesus.
So the planes are some sight though. The planes, I love getting on those planes every single year. And that was when I first went to a London game and I knew no one from the NFL Ireland community at the time. And I'm sure there's people that are going to their first game last year. There certainly was last year. Yeah, it's a great sight to behold, really. Do you know what's even better? The flight home afterwards, and you're like, how did we end up getting back to this airport? Because we've been all scattered over London for the whole
taxi booked this week, 7:15 p.m. opposite the Media Cafe. First world problems, we know. I didn't buy a ticket. I want to give a massive shout out to so many Jets fans, so many Vikings fans that we know. Obviously, we know Simon Kennedy, Jur as well, loads of different guys who are Jets fans, different Jur, don't worry. Loads of Jets fans really excited for this game. Mark, this is a really fun game, and I think for a neutral, I'm genuinely torn. First world problems. Do we go see O'Connell, or do we go see for potentially the final time? Do we go and see Aaron Rodgers at the end of the game? I feel like we have to. What's your thoughts on this game? I think the Vikings are going to. Honestly, I think the Vikings are the better football team for a start, but I think the Vikings will honestly beat them by 10 to 14 points on Sunday. Maybe I'm mad, but I think Minnesota comes out. Sam Darnold puts on a show. Justin Jefferson, 2 touchdowns, 2 gritties, and we all go home relatively happy apart from Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, do you know what? First off, I will say I'm sure you're the exact same, Michael and Jason. If anyone is looking to offload tickets, I've gotten a fair few DMs of people dying to go to the game. So absolutely reach out because I get into some safe Irish hands. Um, what do I expect from the game? A lot of passing. And why do I think that? Because at the end of what was a 28-0 game that became 28-22 when the Green Bay Packers scored all those consecutive points against the Vikings the other day, Kevin O'Connell with 10 minutes 22 left, and that lead has just evaporated, continued to pass on what was the start of the fourth quarter drive. 7 straight passes in a drive that ended up being a field goal. Now, ultimately, they did win the game, but convention now says that you run the ball and you start to take time off the clock. He said afterwards, like, I'm aggressive. I know that as great as Aaron Jones is, and he's really changed, and he's been such sure hands versus what they had last year. Our strength is really the passing game, and with the way Sam Darnold was playing, having Jordan Nelson back was massive. Justin Jefferson too. I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. How will Sam Darnold do? Stupid interception, I have to say, over the weekend. In the build up to it, he should have been intercepted. The interception that he ultimately threw, there was 2 guys waiting at the line to gain, and he just got greedy and threw into double coverage to Aaron Jones instead of checking it down. So those picks are going to be there. I think we'll probably see a lot of passing, and an exciting game. Look, as if we want to admit, this looks like it's the best European game this year. So it's thrilled to be seeing it first.
I don't want to quote executive in the league, but he or she did say it's potentially the game of the weekend to us in person at some point over the last month. Jason, Cork Airport on an NFL Sunday. What's it like? 5:15 a.m. flight, I believe.
It'd be won't stop a few people sitting in the bar, I'd say.
Mark Hogan looks disgusted. Mark,
5:15. My God,
this is about determination and effort. And when we're sitting eating our free chicken wings, please God, in New Orleans,
bounty
remember these moments.
Is that the latest that it goes, Jason?
It's Cork doesn't let me do much, Mark, but it's a 5:15, probably an afternoon flight, and there's no flight back at night time, so I'm going to have to stay till the Monday.
Oh my God, they're doing you, Jason. That's the worst.
So Mark,
I mean, that's great. That's great.
For everybody listening, obviously for people watching, I have my Jets microphone out tonight. For everyone listening, Mark Hogan is deciding to come in later this week because he doesn't want to be seen caught dead with us in Stansted
I will be
Airport.
on the 8 o'clock flight, and I bet you that would be the most popular flight that people are getting.
7 o'clock Belfast International. And this is a relevant topic. I've had NFL fans ask me this week. Like, what is wrong with a 7 a.m. Sunday flight? Don't drink. 7 a.m. Sunday flight. 10 o'clock back. You're in your bed at 5 to 12. You're up for work the next morning. That's not hard. And I granted, just look at my camera, right? Watch this flight be cancelled on Sunday night. It's never happened to me, ever. But watch this flight be cancelled. And if it does, I'm in big trouble. But that's a different story for a different day. Jason, who's in trouble this week?
Well, I might talk about the Jets and preview what they're doing, because they've been very interesting. They're always an interesting team to watch with that market. But let me first just say, on defense, I think they're doing a very good job, but as good a job as we expected. Second fewest yards allowed in the league. They're getting after the quarterback, top 5 in terms of sacks and top 5 in terms of pressure rate. I don't want to call them an elite defense yet, because at the end of the day, some of the teams they've played, the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Titans, hardly stellar offenses. So, I'm not going to say they're one of the best in the league. They've shown they can give up a bit to the run as well, which Aaron Jones will be chomping at the bit at. If there's one weakness on defense, it is defending the run. But overall, very solid unit. The side we all want to talk about is the offense. And I think coming into the season, you want to see from Rodgers what he's shown from a pure physical standpoint and a talent standpoint, that he still has it. He's still throwing the ball with velocity, accurate, coming out quick, coming out on time. Rodgers looks good, but the offense is just lackluster right now. And I'm going to have to question your boy Nathaniel Hackett, Michael. who's running this offense, because they're just not doing a whole lot of spectacular stuff. Breece Hall, he's meant to be one of the most exciting backs in the league. He's averaging just 3.1 yards per carry. Everything I said that Washington is doing good on offense in terms of creating third and manageable and progressing the ball and not asking too much of the quarterback, that's not happening for the Jets offense. They had 15 penalties last week against the Broncos. You can't afford mistakes like that, and it's putting them in third and long. It's allowing defenses to blitz against them. And one of the most surprising things last week was how much Rodgers actually struggled against the blitz. The receivers weren't getting open quick enough. Granted, that Broncos secondary is pretty good, to say the least. But they've got to get the interior protection of the O-line sorted. They need to be able to manage some of these pressures. Some of that will come with the cadence of Aaron Rodgers, which has been a hot topic in the media this week. Him and Salah apparently friends again after the media out to get them. Didn't really.
Did you watch Rodgers and McAfee this week? Just like the one.
I watched some of it.
He's sat for an hour talking.
Yeah. I found that whole narrative about the media kind of being out to get them and Salah saying that they've mistook what he said. At the end of the day, Salah 100% said that Rodgers might have to change his cadence, and now he's gone back on that. So I don't get this angle at all that they're out to get us.
Jason, you're like the whole thing is like we can watch with our own eyes. He says that it then, because it goes back to Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was asked to follow up for anyone. It was put to him what Rob Saleh had said, and then he clearly got a bit pissy. And then Rob Saleh was like, "Oh, I better keep this guy," because the week before it was the cameras after catching them go, what was it, 2 scores up, and Rob Saleh goes in for a hug, and Aaron Rodgers is on the sideline, pushes them off. Like, there's clearly some bit of animosity there.
If the Jets struggle, and if the Jets really struggle against the Vikings defense under Brian Flores, which has done really well, a guy that we know has complex defensive schemes, regardless of what team he's at. Like, the defense for the Vikings through 4 weeks, first or tied for first in quarterback pressures, 94 through 4 games, 17 sacks, which is top of the league, and second for takeaways. If Aaron Rodgers struggles against the Vikings this week, I think the price of the bag goes up for Devontae on Monday morning, straight up.
But it's also how the Vikings are doing it. Like, they're not showing how they're attacking you, so it's making it very difficult for quarterbacks to read what they're facing, and that's where Aaron Rodgers, like, the whole time to throw is a deceiving number, because people think, oh, if you hold onto the ball, you're able to get a good look around the field. It's not. Time to throw is often you are quickly able to get your first read, whereas if your time to throw has gone up, that means that your first read wasn't there. You're making your progressions, maybe onto your second or third guy, and now you're struggling to get the ball out. So when, Jason, you talk about the blitz, when the blitz comes on against Aaron Rodgers, he's been struggling because his first read isn't there, and then he's like wildly throwing. I think I saw a number like his QBR is like down in the 30s or something when he's facing pressure, when the ball is slow coming out of his hand. So to make sense of that number for people, that's why seemingly when you blitz Aaron Rodgers this year, he's just not picking it up quick enough.
Which isn't what you'd expect at all from a veteran like Aaron Rodgers. And that's
why
the cadence.
So, but it could be trust, Jason, you know?
Yeah.
It comes back to the cadence as well, because they had 5 false start penalties last week, and that obviously killed him in terms of Rodgers trying to do these fake huts that he loves to do and get the defense to show themselves a bit. But when the offense shoots themselves in the foot with false start penalties, it takes that away, and it limits his ability to read that defense. You know, when you have 6 or 7 defenders on the line in front of your face, it's hard to tell which one is going to come unless you get a bit of movement out of him with those fakes. So he's not going to stop that. He's going to continue doing it. And you can imagine the headlines now if the offensive line struggles again to keep up with him.
Let's see what happens. That game is Sunday, 2:30. We will be there. I am using my non-managerial force to make Mark go to the Vikings after, and for Jason to sit in the press box and just sit in the cold.
Do you know what, Michael? I probably will go to the Vikings, because the last time Aaron Rodgers lost in London, I do see a loss happening for the Jets. It was miserable. Do you remember? It's like, oh God, the tension in that room was so bad. I still feel it now. Poor Dara Carragher had never been to an NFL game before. He's sitting in his first press conference. I said, Dara, I swear they're only noisier than this.
Yeah,
But not in that
it was
moment.
pretty poor now. I remember sitting beside someone that, you know, didn't want to talk to Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers didn't want to be talked to. I'm going to ask him a question. He sat for 1 hour and 7 minutes on McAfee talking about books the other day. So I'm certainly going to ask him a question about books and what book he intends on taking to his book club next Tuesday. Just to try and go viral for the sheer crack of it. Just on viral and having a bit of crack, Aaron Rodgers' old team, the Green Bay Packers, we are going to have, drum roll, Mark, have you got like a thing to...
Those sound effects live on your computer, fortunately, for everyone. I'd be too busy playing with them.
We have not announced this yet, and these lads, I don't think these lads have a clue, but we're going to have a joint watch party with the Packers, Irish UK Packers, on the 17th of November for the Bears game in Dublin. And it's going to be a bit of crack. Game is, I think the game's at like 5 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock. I thought it was 5 in the early window, but the times have changed by then. We're going to have a bit of crack beforehand. There'll be signed stuff on the night. Maybe we'll find a way to get Dan Whelan to come in over FaceTime if that's not happening before kickoff. But that's happening. It's free entry. If you hit up the UK and Irish Packers group, and then we'll publicise it as well. That's happening on November the 17th. Mark, will I be allowed to go down the motorway? That's the big question, man. Let's find out. Haven't told her yet. We will see. It's in J.R. Mahon's, in case you're wondering, the home of the NFL in Dublin. Our Super Bowl night is there as well. Jason, any ideas on, are you tempted to drive up for that big night?
That could be fun. Yeah.
Bears,
I was
Packers.
up for a night in J.R. Mahon's.
That'll be the only game being shown. So it's sketchy. I like it. Big shout out to that Packers group as well for that. Really looking forward to it.
It was a wintry walk.
I hit the wrong button there. Sorry. That was that frostbite boy. Apologies. Okay, we will get your questions in a wee second. Just a reminder, you can watch the action in week 5 with our good friends over at DAZN, the home of streaming for the NFL in Ireland and the UK. DAZN.com/ProFootballIreland. Every purchase that you make gives us about 20% of that amount, and it does make a difference to us, so Mark can get a taxi later and get a later flight in. In all seriousness, it does make a big difference. Mark, this did send me a text there now saying, are we not doing headaches? We are doing headaches.
I thought we got questions.
You know I'm not going to forget.
Well,
I've literally got like the Dan Campbell thing is like the forever thing under now about a headache. Who wants to go first? Can I go first, or what's the crack?
Oh yeah, you far away.
Game of the weekend. I mean, I know we're all thinking about, if we had to give one game this weekend that we think stands out as a game of the weekend, it has to be that Falcons-Panthers game, boys. What a standout game between two extraordinary teams. It's not Panthers-Falcons, is it?
It's Falcons-Bucks.
It's Panthers against the Dolphins, isn't it? No?
Who's the team that you're trying to refer to?
It's the Panthers. Oh my God, I can't believe I've got the schedule a week down.
I thought
Panthers
the
against
Raiders.
the Bears.
Oh, Bears.
Panthers, Bears.
I'm so sorry. I am so sorry, lads. Basically, what I was going to say, I had it all written down. I literally looked at the defense for the Falcons and was basically saying that the Falcons were tied second for defense on the rush against any other team through 4 weeks. That's rubbish. Look, Chuba Hubbard's going to have a game this week. Basically, that's the best. I made a full page of notes on this.
It's
Chuba Hubbard, headache.
Falcons are playing the Bucks tonight, Thursday Night Football, of course.
Or tomorrow, or yesterday on your podcast network. Sorry, boys, about that. I have a full page of notes. I'm fuming. Chuba Hubbard, Abu. Watch him score 2 rushing touchdowns this weekend when Andy hands it off to him. Mark, who have you got for a headache, pal?
Well, I just do have to go back and say last week I used a stat saying Pat Surtain was going to have a day against Garrett Wilson. He did. And I saw that the stat added to one receiver going out this week. So when we're talking about taking receipts, I was happy that Pat Surtain went off and did. And I'm confident in this week's one. And it wasn't mentioned by you earlier on, Jason. I am actually going to rewind here and go back to Washington and say that Brian Robinson, the running back, Cliff Kingsbury was known in Arizona for having a good run game. It has transferred over to Washington. Why does he have such a good run game while he's so used to being able to block with very extremely light guys in college. So when he's able to get those bigger boys in the NFL, he's able to do some stuff with the run game. It's translated this year, and they face off against the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, and they played the Raiders last week. The Raiders have a non-existent run game. Going into the game against the Browns, they combined through 3 weeks for 153 rush yards. They went and scored 100 or had 152 rush yards against the Browns last week. That shows you how pitiful the Cleveland Browns run defense is. So I think when you have an offensive that has a run game that's clicking in Washington, led by Brian Robinson, I think he should absolutely go off against the Cleveland Browns.
I just looked at the history of my browser, Jason. I hit the wrong week on the schedule.
Keep those notes for another day, Michael. They'll come up eventually.
Chubba Hubbard. Big Chub. Go for it, pal.
I double checked my own just to make sure afterwards. I'm gonna say, what are we saying? The headache. So the headache for Gardner Minshew is the Broncos' defensive front, because I really like what they did against the Jets. They're averaging 4 sacks a game right now, and it's not your prototypical one-star outside linebacker getting the job done. They're kind of coming from everywhere across that defensive line and linebacker unit. Zach Allen, Franklin Myers, Dondre Tillman. You've linebackers blitzing from everywhere. Fun unit to watch right now, and that Raiders unit is also giving up a lot of sacks, and Minshew has been under pressure. He's been sacked at least twice in every game so far this season, averaging 3.5. So a hungry Broncos unit against that Raiders offensive line could spell trouble.
Okay, let's get the questions in, and by God, do we have a beezer to kick it off. Blake Groupie is a DNP today for the Saints. He did not practice. As Al O'Sullivan, good man, Al, letting us know. There's Al. If you ever meet us, you can have this, my friend. Hopefully, this will be worth about 10 grand in about 5 years' time. Okay. What a lovely signature. You just know he's a teacher, wouldn't you, Charlie? Groupie DNP, Charlie Smith watched Monday night debut against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Mark. Oh.
Yeah, hip injury, isn't it? It's a hip injury that Blake Groupie has. I think the extra day makes this extremely interesting because it's obviously a Monday night game. Is that why he didn't? So it's like, yeah, well, absolutely pay attention to that. Yeah, when you talk about staying up for Monday night games, it's wild.
Let's just imagine very quickly. So imagine this was a reel on Instagram, Jason, and everyone look at the camera like this, and where everyone in the podcast driving was like, what the hell's going on? The prospect of Charlie Smith kicking a field goal in Arrowhead Monday night, how does that make me feel as a Northerner? Like a proud father. I don't have any kids yet, and I feel I've already got a tear in my eye. Charlie Smith, mate, if you get the opportunity, you're going to go out and you're going to nail it against the Chiefs. The entire island is behind you. Jason, Charlie Smith, 58-yarder. He's going to make Harrison Butker stand up and be noticed in Arrowhead. I believe. Is this the moment?
Goosebumps, Mick. Yeah, God, please. We'll see how it develops now. It's news to me, but whoa, that's one to watch. That would be epic for sure.
Sean Quinn says, "Hup Dungannon." Sean, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I'm not from Dungannon, but I'll certainly take that to the bank. Jer says, a few questions for later. Where do you? He's actually put in 2 things here. Where do you think Devontae Adams ends up with, and also with Rashee Rice now in IR? Who do you think the Chiefs will move for? Tyreek being rumored, but Amari Cooper contract is very tradable. I actually seen a rumor this morning on the owl interweb that Tyreek is happy in Miami. I think Devontae Adams, lads, goes to the Jets. I think it'll happen next week. I thought it was going to happen yesterday or today, and it hasn't at the time of recording. And yeah, in terms of the Chiefs wide receiver core, it's going to be one to keep an eye on. Have you guys any different opinions?
Week 1, we did our bold takes for the season, didn't we? And yours truly said that Devontae Adams would be traded. I did put in the asterisk that it'd be a Super Bowl contender. The Jets, are they it? I said the Kansas City Chiefs, except for you had to, obviously, when people are talking about that, does he go to the Kansas City Chiefs? It is within the division. Does the price go up? I mean, it doesn't seem so. Like the Bills were able to trade away their pick to the Kansas City Chiefs or a wide receiver in the draft. We all know how that went at the end of the day. It looks like it's going to happen at some point. But for all these teams, Washington now is in the mix. That's the buzzy team, but the Jets, it seems he wants to play for, or Derek Carr in New Orleans. So there's so many strings to pull on there. Wait and find out, I suppose.
What were you, Jason?
Yeah, not much to add. I don't want to see him go to New Orleans because I feel like it's just going to be the Raiders all over again. He'll join excited with a chance to win, and then in a year's time, the team is going to be blowing up and rebuilding, and he's just looking for another trade. I think that'd be a foolish move on his own part.
Shout out to Joe McCord. Looks like a Tyrone man as well. That kid's got a Tyrone jersey on there. Evening, gents. A lot of Tyrone NFL fans. Question for the end of the show. Who's leading the fantasy league so far this year? I was 2-0. I haven't paid for this league yet. Wish we will at some point. Haven't paid yet. I'm now 2-2.
Subscribe to DAZN and Mike can pay his entry.
Basically, my wife has got Revolut and I haven't, and she'll pay it at some point. Don't worry. 50 nip, Mark? Yeah. 50 nip.
Yeah. Gary McGurk is top of our league.
Don't worry. Gary's asked a couple of questions. Don't worry.
He's the top of the league. The question was who's top of our league, and it is Gary McGurk right now. The perfect 4-0. He looks formidable. Most points scored and all like that. So hopefully we'll be able to take him down. Like, I think the injury bug has hit. I don't know the name of his team, but the injury bug has hit. Thankfully for the rest of us.
It's me. I've got I had Kittle. Who else didn't play? There was 3 lads didn't play last week, and I was like, "Are you actually?" They're all inactive. Like, are you actually kidding me? On the note of Kittle, big shout out to my man from Arbo, Gavin, who went to the Niners game for us last week. Big shout out to the Niners. We really appreciate it. He got a great video of George and his wife kissing, which I need to find a way to put on Instagram. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but this is where we're at. Can you just imagine Gary going around and telling all his mates he's beating us in fantasy? Sean, yeah, bang Niner gang. Okay, here we go. So Gary, since we met with FA, I stuck a few quid in the Commanders for the division, traded for Robinson in Dynasty, and drafted him in season long. Also have Daniels in Dynasty too. Go Commanders. But then Gary said afterwards, question for later, who will get fired first, Ten Hag or Doug Peterson?
Oh, nice one, Gary. The way that the NFL works, I don't know. Although I do have the asterisks in for next week. We're definitely going to be talking about Doug Peterson ahead of the Jags coming over. Has he lost the faith of the Jacksonville Jaguars? It seems that he has. Spoiler alert. But can we get to the international break is coming up? That might help out the Doug Peterson side of that equation.
Well, let's just see. Let's just see. I genuinely think after Jason, I don't know if you want to jump into this, but the comment that he made on post game about his players, I don't see Shad Khan taking his team to London for 2 weeks with him there if they lose on Sunday. And the Jags are doing very, very good work in Ireland. I'm just talking, I'd say the same about the Steelers or the Jets if they were 0-4. It's not a good situation for Jacksonville, and I think as fans, we want to see a Jacksonville team come to London that's going to play well and give the Bears and the Pats a good game. If I'm Shad Khan, I'm looking at Bill Belichick right now. Bring him in. Do it. Give us one more. Could you imagine if they bring in someone the week of London and we technically get his first press conference post game?
I actually have no idea how the logistics of that would work. Like, are you allowed to hire a guy and be like, get on a plane, meet us in London? I presume it has to happen.
It would be a Monday job. Return. It would be a Monday, Tuesday job. My understanding is, and I don't want to get in trouble here, but
does Doug Peterson have a ride home? Does he stay in the hotel that they're all in for 2 weeks? Well, he's told his family, his wife is probably there. There's probably a lot involved in that.
I will say this, it's my understanding, I'm talking more along the lines of if they don't win this weekend and then fired Monday, Tuesday. My understanding is they're not flying in the Thursday and then they stay for obviously that weekend and then the full week. So there's time there. I believe they land on Thursday evening and then there's an open practice on Friday with the team in London, which they have tickets. You can check out the Jaguars UK and Ireland social media page if you'd like to get a ticket to that. And Jason does not know it yet, but he'll be flying over early for us to go to that press conference if Bill Belichick does get in. Anything to add on that, Jason?
Look, Trevor Lawrence isn't playing the way they want him to play, and if that doesn't improve, they're not going to move on from Lawrence. They're going to move on from the coach. And when you see him getting testy with the media and throwing players under the bus like he did, I think that's not a good sign.
Might not be. What a great night. We're 3,000 people watching us live. And for everybody in the podcast, we really, really appreciate the continued support. We're so blessed to have the opportunity to head to London this weekend and to really help spread the word of Ireland and the NFL. This should, and I hope it is the last year that we have to get on a plane to fly across an ocean to watch an NFL game. There's no other area, island, country, whatever you want to call it, that deserves a game more than us, and we should not have to wait any longer. Make it happen next September or next October, and I've really nothing else to say, Mark. I'll see you lads at the weekend. I can't wait. Bring it on, baby. Me, you, Jason, Craig Doyle, the Fantastic Four are back. If you do get the chance, folks, do support Craig if you're home the weekend and watch that game on Virgin or ITV. Great guy. First rounds of you on Sunday, Mark.
Oh, is this? Yeah, of course.
Jason, can you bring me something special from Cork that I can't get up north and give me it on Sunday morning?
Breast in a bun.
Will we see our first Pro Football Ireland t-shirt being worn at a London game? That's what I want to know. Funny enough, we talked a lot of Washington. Jaden Daniels is on the front of Washington, so I am hoping that he has a career because it'll save me ever having to do another Washington one for the next 15 years.
Washington. A few comments there at the end about that Packers meetup. It'll be publicised more soon. It's private with that group at the minute. Prayers up for Charlie. Good night. God bless. Have a great weekend, folks. Chat to you soon.